Hey, what's going on? My name is Doyle Luckowitz. I want to come at you with a brief training today. We're going to jump right in. So that's the introduction you get to me. All right. So today's training is why you feel like you are always hungry. And I don't know if that's the case for you, but I know certainly that's the case for me at various times. There are some days that no matter what I do, I feel like I'm starving even after I finish eating. And now I understand why that is a lot of the time. And I want to share that with you so that that's something that you can be aware of and that you can take steps to fix. Because if we feel like we're always hungry and we're always eating, that is not super helpful towards our weight loss, if that's what we're looking for, or our overall health. So before we jump into 10 reasons why that might be happening, we need to have a basic understanding of hunger and how it works. And so this is going to be like real surface level overview, basic understanding so that we can jump into those points. So what happens when your stomach is empty? Your blood sugar and your insulin levels begin to drop. And when that happens, it signals the release of a hormone, ghrelin. Okay. And so maybe you've heard of the hunger hormone before. That's that hormone that gets released. And it's when your brain is saying like, okay, it's time to eat, right? So there's this connection that's happening between your stomach and your brain when this hormone is released. Once you've eaten enough, once your body recognizes that it's full, a different hormone, leptin, is going to be released and says you're full, okay? Now, ideally, that's when we stop eating, but that doesn't always happen, right? So I did a training already about the difference between hunger and craving, so I'm not going to get into a lot of details there. If you missed that training, if you're watching this live in the Facebook group or the recording inside the Facebook group, ask for the training. I'll connect it here. If you're watching this in another forum, I'll make sure that that link is connected. But basically, hunger it's physiological. Hunger is physical. You feel it in like your gut, right? It has physical symptoms. Cravings are more emotional. Cravings happen in like the head, right? That's the more psychological piece of hunger. Now, there's this other element that also comes into play, and it's called hedonic hunger, right? And so this is when you eat, not because you're craving something, not because you're actually physically hungry, but it's purely about pleasure, right? It's those times when you're totally overstuffed, you don't want to eat anything, you're not craving anything, right? And then suddenly somebody says, hey, would you like this piece of dessert? Would you like this amazing piece of cake or brownie or whatever it might be? And even though you're not hungry and even though you're not craving it, you eat it anyway, right? So that's that other element. Now, I wish it could just be as simple as that. But of course, when hormones are involved and metabolism's involved, things can get really out of whack. So there's going to be a lot of different factors that affect our metabolism, right? Our age, our activity level, what's going on in our day-to-day, our stress, our sleep. It's going to be affected by the foods we eat. It's going to be affected sometimes a little bit by genetics. So there's just like a bunch of these factors coming into play. And so I want to talk about why, with all of that happening, you might sometimes feel like you're hungry. And when you feel like you're hungry all day. This can be increasingly frustrating when you're specifically focusing on nutrition and you're specifically focusing on making healthy changes and you just feel like you can't stop eating or can't satisfy this hunger that you have, right? So the first thing that may be causing this is not getting enough sleep, okay? This isn't necessarily like not getting enough sleep in the long term. This could be as simple as you didn't get enough sleep last night and today you're like ravenous, right? And there's a couple reasons that happens. Sleep deprivation, so when you don't have enough sleep, it does cause a spike in that hunger hormone, okay? So your body actually like is getting screwed up when you're not sleeping. Hormonally, you're getting screwed up, and that spike in your hunger hormone is causing you to sometimes feel hungrier. But another factor that's happening when we don't sleep enough, we are tired, we are lethargic, and what do we want to do when we're tired? We want to grab for food for energy. And when we're tired, we're not making the best decisions, but also we're craving and wanting to grab from things that aren't as good for us, right? We're a lot of times grabbing for those sugary things, those things that are really quick, that we don't have to think a lot about and do a lot with. And so when we're overly tired, our body's just looking for a food source just for energy purposes. And so you might not actually be hungry. You might not even necessarily be craving anything, but your body is just telling you to do that. You might not be getting enough nutrients. This happens sometimes when people are calorie counting specifically, right? If you're counting calories, a lot of times that's your focus, and you're not necessarily focusing on the types of foods and what those foods are doing for your body. And so while you might be eating enough calories in the day, you might not be eating enough nutrients, okay? And so this, I always equate back to college when I would order out with my friends. I discovered the world of like delivery, and I would get a massive, huge quantity of Chinese food, right? And I would eat like General Tso's chicken and fried rice, and I'd have the egg roll. And like within an hour, I felt like I was starving. It's because I wasn't eating anything that really had good nutrients in it. So you want to make sure that whether this is because you're actually following a plan where you're following calories specifically, or just your everyday eating, having enough nutrients to make sure that your body feels full so that it's not craving all these things. So you want to be eating a lot of nutrient dense foods like fruits and vegetables and lean proteins, whole grains. That's going to help put that hunger at rest. It's going to help keep you full. And when you're eating the right combinations, it's also going to help your cravings. You might be feeling like you're hungry because your blood sugar is low, right? And so this is when your blood sugar dips. We talked about this already. Your stomach is releasing that ghrelin, signaling to your brain that your stomach needs food. If you're eating too many refined carbs, if you're eating too much sugar, your insulin levels, your blood sugar levels will spike initially, and then they crash. And so when they're crashing, you start to crave things. This sometimes happens if you grab like a donut or a bagel in the morning, right? You're having a lot of the heavy carb and sugar, and you eat that and it fills you up. And then you find like you start craving those things all day. You want to eat more of those things all day, because while you get that initial spike, you then come crashing down. So that could be a reason that you're eating too much. It could be your blood sugar levels. It could be because you're skipping breakfast. Now, I don't want to suggest that you have to eat breakfast, right? Not everybody eats breakfast. That's not something that is the right fit for every single person in every situation. But the idea of not skipping it is getting your body and your mind into the habit of eating good, healthy things, getting into that routine of eating healthy things. And so that's going to help set you up sometimes for better success. Also, a lot of times people are skipping breakfast, but then they find themselves super hungry and craving a whole bunch of other things that they don't necessarily want or need before lunch just because they skipped that. So that could be something to think about, something that you want to play with, and something you want to consider. How many times do you eat just out of habit? I know sometimes I'll look at the clock and I'll say, oh, it's 12 o'clock, I should eat. Whether I'm hungry or not, it's just a habit. But more so, it's those habits that are triggered by events or times of day or different things. Like when you go to the movies, what do you typically get when you go to the movies? For me, it's popcorn. I don't do all the candy and the soda and all that. But for me, I'm going to a movie, I'm eating popcorn. It's just an automatic thing. Whether I am hungry or not, I could eat a full meal before I walk into that theater, but I'm going to sit there and I'm going to eat the whole darn thing of popcorn. And usually before the movie even starts, it's like out of habit. Think about when you go to a birthday party. Even if you're full, are you somebody that just eats the cake because it's habit? Or you're buying hot dogs and beer at a baseball game where maybe you don't ever have that, but just because you're there, you do it. You're not hungry, but you're eating it. And so that sometimes happens. Another we're on number 6, okay, out of 10. So 6 is you are eating because you're stressed. When your body is stressed, it sometimes wants to be eating food, whether you need it or not. And typically your body is going for foods that aren't so like super healthy. When you're stressed, you're probably not munching on celery and carrots, unless you're being very, very conscious of it. So when you're stressed and you're reaching for snacks, you're getting a whole bunch of empty calories that you probably, you definitely don't need the empty calories. And it's not necessarily serving you. You're not hungry. And sometimes that stress eating is even out of habit. Another one is diet soda. If you're a big diet soda drinker and you find that you're hungry a lot during the day, that could be causing it. And that has a lot to do with the artificial sweeteners in it that sometimes makes your sugar craving stronger. So sometimes people reach for a diet soda to curb their appetite and their hunger. and it's actually doing the opposite. So you want to be mindful of that. Another thing that could be causing you to feel like you're hungry all the time is that you eat too fast. I am a super fast eater. Well, we already know that we have this, gut brain talking to each other situation, but guess what? It takes a little bit of time for your brain to know that your stomach is full. And if you eat too fast, that signal doesn't get there. So you might be actually full before you think you're full. And so if you slow down, you'll get to enjoy your food better, go figure. But you're going to actually feel fuller eating less food because your body's recognizing that. So if that's the case, if you're a fast eater, slow down. I started to get into the habit for a while, and then I fell out of the habit of actually, when I'm at a meal, putting my fork down in between bites, because I'm somebody that'll just sit there and shovel it in. And when I put it down, I take a breath. Sometimes I'll take a sip of whatever I'm drinking. I enjoy the meal. I taste it, but again, my body can recognize when it's full. Sometimes when you are starting a new nutrition plan, right? Maybe you're starting a new program, starting a plan, doing something different that you're specifically trying to do, you might find yourself really hungry as your body's adjusting, as your body's getting used to new foods. You might be eating more or less calories than you were eating. That's going to be an adjustment for your body, different types of foods. So my recommendation when you are doing that is really try to fight through it to figure out, are you actually hungry, or does your body just need that little bit of time to adjust? Because sometimes that's the case. And number 10 is you might be working out harder. Now, harder could mean you're working out for a longer period of time. It could be you're just doing a different type of exercise. You could be lifting heavier. But when you're changing up exercise routines, that's going to also mean a time of adjustment for your body. Sometimes you're hungrier because you're trying to eat the same amount that you were eating, but now you're working out harder and longer and more. And so sometimes that means you need to actually be eating more calories. I want to caution you on this one though, because sometimes your body just needs a little time to adjust. And it could be one of those other reasons that you feel hungry. And so you start to add calories in, thinking it's because you're exercising harder. And that's not really what's happening. It could be one of those other factors. So I usually tell you to look at the other things if exercise has changed. Look at your energy levels. How are you feeling emotionally around food? How are you feeling throughout the day? Do you feel like you're crashing and you don't have energy to do the things you need to do? Are all of these other areas in check before you just start adding calories? Because that does end up being a downfall for a lot of women when they're trying to lose weight. They start working out, so then they start eating more, but they end up eating more than they should be for the working out that they're doing. If you're not sure if that's the struggle, if you're not sure what might be tripping you up, if you are trying to make changes, or maybe you know you need to make changes, but you're not exactly sure where to begin or what to do, I would love to offer you a free call. I call it a transformation analysis call. And basically what we do is talk about your goals. Where is it that you want to be? We talk about what you're doing and what's not working with what you're doing. What's standing in the way? What struggles and roadblocks could trip you up? And then together we kind of figure out a plan, and I'll be able to point things out that maybe you didn't see, maybe you hadn't thought about, send you in the right direction. And if it makes sense, if there's something that I can offer you in the way of coaching and training, we would talk about it at that point. But really, it's just a good opportunity to dive deeper into what you're doing and help get you from where you are to where you want to be with some good, solid suggestions. So definitely, if you have not taken advantage of one of those calls yet, if you're in my Facebook group, I'm going to be dropping the link right in the comments. If you're watching this from somewhere else, the link will be available for you either in a comment, or there will be a button for you to press right below this video. But I definitely encourage you, if this feels very overwhelming, if change feels really hard, or you feel like you're doing the right things but not seeing the results that you want, let's jump on a call. It will not be a waste of your time. I promise you, I promise that you'll get some good value from it, and you'll have somebody else that knows what it is you're looking to do for just added support. All right, I hope that was helpful. Let me know what questions you have and what you might want to see for next week's training. Have a great one.